All right, today we've got the bench all cleaned off, got the ribs out, the spars out. Here's what it looks at one end and at the other end. Now before we start putting them all together, just some housekeeping to do. I don't know about other people, but when you form them in the jigs, all the glue settles to the bottom and there is glue to sand off and chip out because you put too darn much on and you get clumps of it. So I'm going to sand all that clumps off that are on there, get it sorted out so that all that clumps and stuff sanded nice and smooth and the big chunks are out of there. That's the job for today, is getting those sanded and in good shape to fit to the ribs, or fit the ribs to the spars and make wings. All right, I'm all dusty from sanding, so what I did was just sand all of the joints where the glue was building up. So for those that have built before, is there a way to do it neatly so that you don't have a bunch of glue buildup? I am confident that I used enough glue because it was kind of a pain sanding all the little places where the glue would seep out and then just sit and gather. I don't know if you can spot down there. You can see how it seeps out. And that's to be expected. How to do it neatly? I don't know. So what I've done, I've stuck them onto the spar because you want to measure from the spar to make sure they're all the same length. So I'm pretty happy. I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding to get each one perfectly bang on. It's funny how the same template, you just get little tiny inconsistencies. And I'll sand that just to get it bang on, cover all the way across. So on the back, what I've done is the same thing. I'll get them all together, and there's a little more discrepancy. I'll give them a sanding just to get that so that it's bang on. A couple that are a little longer, a couple that are a little shorter. But overall, the height and everything, that is pretty spot on. Now, I may not be as meticulous as some people. Elgie, the way he did things was pretty neat. I wonder if he had, and you can comment, Elgie, or anyone else that's done it, if you get a bunch of glue seeping out from the joints or not. And at the end, how much you're out. I've got one there, might be a 16th out or so. Maybe a little bit more. Nah, not much. But I'll just give that a nice little sanding all the way across so that they're all exactly the same. And you got to realize that I've got all 12, 13 ribs here in one thing. When you spread that over 12 feet, a little bit of a 1/16 of an inch on one rib isn't going to make a heck of a difference. All right, let me get those sanded down and then we'll move on. All right, I got them sanded. They're pretty darn straight, the front and the back. Again, it's just interesting that they all came from the same jig. Some of them are a little tighter than others when it goes onto the spar, and that's fine. In the plans it says this one looks pretty equal, the space across there. Sometimes there'll be a bit of a space at the back, they say, to just put a little shim in there. So I'll watch which ones those are when we get them separated. And some are definitely, this one's tight, so I would understand that it's a bit tighter. Some of them are fit a bit looser. And that might, yeah, you can't even hardly see. There's a bit of a thing. I might be able to slide a bit of a wedge in there just to tighten that up. But they all fit on there just the way it's supposed to. When you're doing the ribs, they talk about the space you have to have here. So when I did up my jigs, And there's one right there, and you can see where the front spar, I made sure that the front spar, when I'm doing the ribs, the front spar had space in there. So I had this one specifically at exactly the right spot for that space for the spar. The reason why that's so critical, because here's your main spar, it has to fit in each one of these. So this is the one that goes on the jig next to that spar. That spar's got to fit right through there, and it can't not fit through there. That's what everything goes off of, is this spar. So all the ribs fit right through, and that's why that main spar spacing when you do the jigs is so important for those wing ribs. And that's the same for the back spar. That one spacer right there, that one upright, sets the spot where that main spar will fit into. So that one and that one. So that back one and that front one have to be in the exact right spot so the spars will fit through, and you can glue the ribs right to the spar, right where they're supposed to be, and everything fits hunky-dory. You can see all these ones fit on there just right. So now we'll just separate those ones and then bring in the false spars and put them in between. We're on our way. Just a little side note, I made myself a cyclone or whatever. Took 2 oil drums, mounted them like this, one on top of the other. Just cut a hole in here, got a vacuum straight little extension stick in there. That goes out to the suction end, or to the vacuuming end. At the top, I just cut a hole in there and put the in from the vacuum coming in here. So this sucks in this way, this sucks in this way. You get that cyclone action. After 2 weeks of doing a lot of sanding and sucking, there's absolutely nothing in the vacuum. And it's all in the bottom of this thing. So it didn't cost me anything really. I just put it together as a proof of concept to see if it was work. You always see it on the internet, how these cyclone things work. Well, you don't have to spend anything really to get something like that set up. And instead of going through vacuum bags and dumping that thing every second day, that little doomahickey has been going strong. So, yeah, just a little side note on tools.